Alright mates, let's talk about Australia, land of ancient cultures, convict settlements, gold rushes, and one of the wildest histories of any continent. From its indigenous roots to its transformation into a global powerhouse, Australia's story is one of survival, rebellion, and resilience. So, grab your imaginary time machine because we're heading down under for a history lesson like no other. Before the British, 60,000 years of indigenous culture, long before Captain Cook set foot on the shores of what he called New South Wales. Australia was home to the world's oldest continuous culture, the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. We're talking about civilizations that have been thriving for at least 60,000 years, mastering survival in some of the harshest environments on Earth. These societies had deep spiritual connections to the land, with each group developing its own languages, traditions, and Dreamtime stories myths that explain the creation of the world. They built complex trade networks, developed sophisticated hunting and fishing techniques, and even had early forms of astronomy. But in 1770, everything was about to change. The British arrive, a penal colony is born. Enter Captain James Cook, who sailed along the east coast of Australia in 1770 and claimed the land for Britain. But here's the kicker, Cook called it terra nullius, meaning nobody's land, despite the fact that indigenous peoples had been living there for tens of thousands of years. Fast forward to 1788, and Britain had found a new use for Australia, a dumping ground for convicts. Yep, the first fleet, led by Captain Arthur Phillip, landed in what is now Sydney, bringing with it around 750 prisoners and 250 Marines. Over the next 80 years, about 162,000 convicts were shipped to Australia, turning the continent into one giant open-air prison. But here's the thing, those convicts weren't all hardened criminals. Many were poor people who had been caught stealing food or committing petty crimes in Britain's brutal justice system. Some of them, once freed, went on to become successful landowners, traders, and even political leaders. The gold rush and the making of a nation. By the mid-1800s, Australia was no longer just a penal colony, it was a land of opportunity. Gold was discovered in the 1850s, triggering a massive rush of fortune seekers from around the world. Cities like Melbourne and Sydney exploded with growth, and Australia started to shift from a place of exile to a land of promise. The gold rush also led to increased migration, especially from China, bringing a wave of cultural diversity. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Tensions over immigration led to racist policies, and the indigenous population, already suffering from displacement and violence, faced further hardships. Despite this, Australia continued to grow. By 1901, the 6 separate British colonies united to form the Commonwealth of Australia, finally gaining its own government while still recognizing the British monarch. War, struggles, and independence. Australia might have been a young country, but it was thrown into global conflicts almost immediately. In World War I, Australian troops fought on the front lines, most famously in the tragic Gallipoli campaign of 1915, which became a defining moment in the nation's identity. World War II further cemented Australia's role on the world stage, especially as the country defended itself against Japanese attacks in the Pacific. After the war, Australia saw a huge immigration boom, welcoming people from Europe, Asia, and beyond. It also slowly began distancing itself from Britain, rewriting its laws, developing its own culture, and eventually replacing British influences with stronger ties to the US and Asia. It wasn't until 1986 that Australia fully cut legal ties with the UK, and even today, it still debates whether to remain a constitutional monarchy or become a republic. Modern Australia, a nation reckoning with its past. Australia today is a multicultural powerhouse, known for its stunning landscapes, thriving cities, and laid-back culture. But it's also a country that continues to grapple with its history. The treatment of Indigenous Australians remains a major issue, with ongoing debates about land rights, recognition, and reconciliation. Despite this, Indigenous culture is making a resurgence, with greater recognition of traditional lands, languages, and contributions to Australian society. Fun fact, did you know Australia is home to more than 10,000 beaches? If you visited a new beach every day, it would take you over 27 years to see them all. So, when you think of Australia, don't just picture kangaroos and barbecues. Think of the ancient cultures, the struggles of convicts, the gold-fueled dreams, and the spirit of a nation that has transformed itself time and time again. It's a place where history is alive, and every piece of land has a story to tell.